Hello. So Natalia is telling me that we can start. So let's start. Hello. My name is Mariana Hranishin from ABC Recruiting, and this is one of our webinars from the recruiting webinar series called Hack the Hiring Process. And what we do on those webinars, we invite managers or business owners of small and medium-sized businesses, and they share with us their approaches to management and, of course, to recruitment. I'm happy that today we are joined by Devin Kinasz. Devin is publisher of Travelweek. Um, and Devin will talk, will tell us today about her approaches to her management style and her recruitment approaches. I will tell you a little bit about the company. Travelweek is quite an old company. It's 50 years old. This year they celebrated its fifth anniversary. And I was honored to be at the celebration. Devin, once again, congratulations on the anniversary. And this is one of the Canada's leading travel trade news source for those 50 years. Travel Week is headquartered in Toronto. They also, so this is English speaking publication, and they also have a subdivision for French speaking audience called Profession Voyage, which is based in Quebec. And Devin is also managing this subdivision. And what is important, what is interesting to me about the company is that the story is quite long lasting, and the transformation is interesting because it started as a paper version, and today we have both paper and a large part of the business is online. And by the way, this is not the only business Devin is managing. So I hope that we will have a lot of stories from her today. And a little bit of organizational issues. We are talking with Devin here on Zoom. All participants are watching us on YouTube, and participants are allowed to ask questions. So if you want to ask something, just type your questions in the chat, and our friend and colleague Natalia will share what was is. So maybe there will be some delays on this, but I will check from time to time the chat to check if we have questions. So Devin, happy to have you here. Thank you that you found time to talk to us about your company, about your style of management of recruiting. So I will probably start with my questions. So could you please share a little bit the history of Travel Week, because I know only like the general picture. Maybe you will tell us a little bit more in details, and what is more important, what were the turning points for the company?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Hi, Mariana. Thanks so much for having me. So as you said, Travel Week is a 50-year-old company. So we're a media company. Our readers are the travel agents across Canada. And we have had quite a journey over these 50 years. Believe it or not, we started as a 4-page blue printout piece of paper that we used to fax to our readers every day. And yes,
that's amazing.
I know.
Not
I
everyone
around during those times, but those are the stories that I'm told.
And not everyone knows now how the facts looks like. You know that your company started with this. So
I know.
that's
If you
awesome.
remember that like annoying fax machine noise that you used to hear. So that's how we started, and we've evolved quite significantly since then. So then we moved into printing full color magazines once a week. And that was actually very good revenue for us. At one point, we were making $50,000 in sales per magazine per week. And at that time, we started kind of building websites, but the clients didn't want online advertising. So we
Oh
almost
no.
had to give it away. Yeah, if you can believe it.
Mhm.
So now we are here many years later, and the kind of reverse is true. The advertisers want less and less print advertising, and now they want all the online digital marketing. So I would say it's completely flipped, and now 80% of our revenue comes from the digital side.
Mhm.
So Travel Week has always been kind of the core of our business. But then from there, as you mentioned, we added a French media company, we bought a bridal magazine. One interesting thing, we used to spend a lot of money distributing our magazine to all the different travel agencies across Canada. But at one point, we decided, hey, why don't we start a company that can do the distribution itself? So again, that started with very humble beginnings, and the people that started it would actually walk around Toronto with backpacks on and deliver the magazine. And that's grown into, a big multi-million dollar business as well. So it's kind of Travel Week is the core, and then we have all these offshooting businesses from that.
So that's cool. That sounds cool. So how many additional businesses around Travel Week do you have?
Gosh, I would
Five, something
say
like
at
that.
least 5 or 6, and then adding the real estate, like 7 or 8. It's a lot.
And you are managing all of those businesses or only some of them?
Only some of them. We have a president who runs the warehousing business, but I'm quite involved in most of the other ones.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And what was actually your personal story of a businesswoman? Did you start in Travel Week or there was something before that?
Yes, I come from a much different background. I studied economics. I went to UBC, and then I went to England and I got my master's in international development, and I actually started working in banking. Now, there was a little bit of a travel tie-in because I was a country risk economist and I covered Eastern Europe and the Middle East, and I got to, go to these countries sometimes. As you know, I met you in Kiev many, many years ago.
Yeah.
And then that was a really fun job. I really, really enjoyed that. And then eventually I wanted to move back to Canada. So I did move back and I got a job at Scotiabank as an economist for the US economy. And I just really, really, really didn't like it. I felt like I was in Mad Men. There was this chief economist, and he was all stern and strict. And
Mm-hmm.
then there was all these, secretaries running around trying to appease him. And it was just like a really bad work environment. So at that point, I decided I didn't really want to be in finance anymore. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life like talking about inflation. So I made the jump to media and travel, and yeah, it's been way more fun. It's been way more enjoyable. Yeah, I'm quite passionate about it.
So it's cool because very often people do not want to leave like so-called corporate world, those large companies because of I don't know their brand or something like that. Didn't you hesitate? Did you have any hesitations of this sort or not?
Well, a lot of people thought I was a bit nuts because, yeah, I did have this high paying job in finance, with a nice title. So it looked really good. But, sometimes you have to take a look and figure out what kind of lifestyle you want. And there's a lot of people stuck in what I like to call golden handcuffs. You're getting
Mm-hmm.
paid just enough money so you can't complain too much, but at the same time, it's not what you really want to be doing. So you're a bit stuck in these golden handcuffs. But my advice to everyone is throw off the shackles.
Okay, great. And so you are you are a woman, and the businesses you manage are business are women-owned businesses. I don't remember the exact figures, but even here in Canada, the number of managers, female managers, is much lower than the male managers. So, how do you think the approaches of managers of female and male differ, and what do you think about all this? If it's in general a topic, if an issue for discussion, if you are a female or male manager or not, what do you think about this?
Well, I guess, I was lucky to grow up in the 80s. So, all this, a lot of the glass ceilings were already shattered by, women that came before me. So I'm quite grateful for that. So I never felt like I was at a huge disadvantage. I was able to compete quite well with men. Working in finance was a male dominated industry. I
Mhm.
prefer the travel industry much more, even though there's kind of this old boys club that is dominating the travel industry as well. So I do acknowledge that all these issues are still there. I don't let them bother me too much. The bottom line for running a business is if you have a good product and you treat your clients well, then you can have a successful business. In regards to the difference, I maybe look at this a bit more widely, and the male energy is striving, achieving, getting things done. But a woman who's in her power, the power looks a little bit different. It's magnetizing, it's a bringing together of opportunities and resources, it's building
Mhm.
communities, it's creating consensus. So I think we're starting to see, this type of leadership be brought to more and more businesses. And, I think it's quite exciting because, it's a style that has been missing for millennia.
Yes, exactly. I often think that women bring a lot of things to business, and yes, I like talking to female managers, like, I don't know, to exchange experience. One funny thing, when I was at one of the conferences here in Calgary, and a lady from the city of Calgary was delivering a presentation about this gender issue, and one of her example was that in companies run by women, sometimes women hire men to pitch the clients because the level of trust to men is still much higher than to women. So when the deals are very important, sometimes women just hire men just to make the presentation so to clients. So we have to work on this, like to avoid this situation in the future. So thanks for sharing
Well,
your.
actually, my
Mhm.
experience has been different because my salespeople are women and they're totally fabulous. And I've
Mhm.
hired a few men and they haven't
It
come
didn't work.
close to performing as well as they have. So I'm sure other people have different experiences, but those have been my experiences.
Actually, I prefer hiring females too. It's they are like, so. This is another topic of conversation, but I understand you. And so in general, so how many years are you in Travel Week? It's like more than 15 years, something like that.
Me personally, I've been in the business over 10 years, maybe something around 12 years. I started as the director of digital strategy. So,
Mm-hmm.
helping envision the pivot into digital. And I've been the publisher, which is, kind of the lead job at a media company for 4 or 5 years now.
Mm-hmm. And what are the largest challenges in your business from your experience during the time you were leading the company?
Well, the biggest challenge we face is kind of competition from the big tech companies.
Mm-hmm.
Like we rely on advertising dollars, and Google and Facebook and some of these other guys have just gotten so big that they're just absorbing more and more of the marketing dollars. So that is really our main kind of challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we have day-to-day business challenges, cost cutting, finding the right people, keeping people motivated, dealing with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of the more day-to-day issues.
Mm-hmm. But this, so Google exists like, I don't know for how long it exists, longer than Travel Week. So it's just one of the challenges you have to cope with and to adjust to the market. This is not like a real threat to the business or something like that.
It's a bit threatening.
Okay, and so let's maybe come closer to the topic, which is much closer to me, yes, to ABC recruiting, yes, because we are recruiters. And let's discuss a bit about your team, about your hiring approaches, managing people, and so on. So, can you share a bit information how big your team is and how often you hire people, how often you have vacancies?
Yeah, our core team is about 15 people, and we divide it into 3 departments. So we have a sales department, we have an editorial department, which writes all the articles, and then we have a production department, which is the graphic designers and all the IT. So luckily, we have a core group of employees that have been with the company for a very long time, and they're so helpful, and we wouldn't be
It's
able
great.
to do the things that we do without them. But we do have to hire every once in a while, and it seems to come in kind of droves. Like, we'll have a solid team for a while, and then
Mhm.
a few people will move on all at the same time. So we have a little bit of upheaval. We had a little bit of upheaval about the same time last year, and I had to replace 3 people in quick succession. So it was a bit
Mhm.
stressful for me, but it turned out great because the new people we hired are fabulous as well.
Great. I love your positive attitude to everything. Yes,
Oh,
you are actually my example of positive attitude to everything. And so, as you said, that the core of your business now is online, and probably you have a tech IT team. Can you please? So you mentioned that you have them. So can you please tell us a bit more about them? How many people? Who are these people? What exactly they do? Just to understand your processes.
okay. Well, first I have director of production. So he has many, many IT skills, but he also is like the creative director. So he also has graphic design and these type of skills, which is very important to my business. Then I have someone else who is more like a marketing coordinator. And um,
Maybe
and
you need a
she
glass
is
of
very
water.
good. Yeah, sorry, I'm lost for words. Uh, she's very good in, just all around, all kinds of skills, all kinds of internet skills, all kinds of different software skills, graphic design, Zoom skills. She manages my webinars, as I know you have someone helping you today. And then we have an actual IT person who manages all the systems. And gosh, I feel really bad for him this week because one of our systems went down, and the salespeople were all upset because they couldn't put their sales into the system. So he's been working tirelessly to, get that system up and running again. So he's a very important part of the team as well. And I do have many different contractors that I use. I have 2 developers, actually 3 that I use. I have someone that manages all the security and the servers for the website, and I have many other contractors that I rely
Mm-hmm.
on quite heavily.
Yeah, we will talk a little bit later. I have questions about details about those technical issues you are coping with. And So we talked about your management style. So we understood how it differs from other people's styles. And what is your hiring approach in? How do you hire? So how the hiring process with you looks like? So how many, I don't know, interviews, tasks, or anything else? How do you approach this?
Okay, well, first of all, we are a media company, so we have our own channels to advertise jobs on.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the jobs, like salespeople, we really need someone who knows the travel industry. So we will advertise them on our own channels. We will get maybe, let's say, let's say 30 people submit their resumes, and then we go through and maybe interview 6 or 7 of them, have one interview, have a second interview, and then make a decision. Some of the other roles are a bit easier to hire for. Like if we have a more junior marketing role, we can
Mm-hmm.
advertise it on Indeed and we'll get a ton of responses. It's actually a
Mm-hmm.
bit too much. It's totally overwhelming. Like hundreds or thousands of people submit their resumes, and then you have to go
Yeah.
through and try and pick some to interview. But we have got some very good people that way. And then most recently, I was in a total jam because my IT person left suddenly and she was going to leave within 2 weeks. So I reached out to you, Mariana, and you got me, well, did all the digging and found the candidates. I think I interviewed 3 candidates on Zoom, and then I picked one, got him in place, and he was starting on Monday. So that's the easiest way to hire people.
Yes, exactly, exactly, and this is why the agencies exist. So I'm happy you were happy, you know. And
Yeah, very
tell
happy.
when you have those more important roles. So you mentioned that sometimes you have first interview, then second interview. So who is interviewing those people? So it's you or some other people are also interviewing them.
Well, it's usually the salespeople that are a bit more difficult to hire for because we need someone who knows the industry. We need someone that has travel industry connections, and we need someone that is good at sales. So I have a director of sales. So she usually does the first round of interviews. And then if
Mhm.
she really likes them, then her and I will go meet them in person. Because for
Mhm.
I can hire IT people just through Zoom, but for a salesperson, you really kind of have to get a feel for them in person. So we'll do a second interview in person, possibly a third interview. Then my director of sales will kind of do the negotiations and put them into
Mhm.
place, and then hopefully they start sometime soon.
Cool. So you have processes in place. So that's really amazing because very often, so from my experience, you know, because actually we work mostly with as our recruiting agency. I mean, work mostly with small and mid-sized businesses, and very often small companies do not have those recruiting processes. They like treat them like not very important, but in the long run, they land in a situation like you mentioned when they have like 200 of responses and they don't have time even to review those responses. So that's really amazing that you have those processes introduced. And regarding the way you work, so do you work remotely or on site? And what
Well,
about
like
you,
most
or what
companies,
about the team? Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, we had a beautiful office in Queens Quay, downtown Toronto. I actually spent like so much time decorating it. I put all these murals on the wall of Rome, like paintings of palm trees everywhere. It was a beautiful, beautiful office, and we only used it for 1 year. And then COVID hit, and we went remote, and it worked really, really well. My team working remotely, partially because I have some people working for me that are super trustworthy and have been with the business a really long time. And with my business, it's really easy to judge output. For the salespeople, they're either making sales or not. The editorial people, they're either writing the articles or they're not. So I don't need to kind of micromanage people because I see the output. They're either meeting their deadlines or not.
Mhm.
So I personally really enjoyed, going remote. I think a lot of people, it was a better work-life balance. And then 21, 22, everyone started having those conversations about, are we going back to the office or not? So I actually did a survey to survey
So,
people.
did they want to come back or not?
Well, I'm going to tell you the survey results. So
Okay.
80% of people did not want to come back.
Okay.
20% of people wanted to come back, but they only wanted to come back 2 days a week.
Mhm.
So here you have to start, making some management decisions about what makes sense. Are you going to pay the rent on a office where people are going to come 2 days a week just to hang out, and most of the people are going to be coming begrudgingly because they don't want to be there at all? So the decision was made to let go of the office, and it was financially beneficial for us to do that.
And did you see? So your story about shifting remote sounds quite positive. So were there any issues, challenges with any issues related to this remote work? Because but with this when this experience you are sharing, this is after the COVID, yes. But then when the COVID came, this was for the first time unexpectedly. Yes, firstly unexpectedly. So nobody planned to start working remotely. Was it a surprise? Was it difficult maybe at that point for you to adjust to this remote style of work?
In the beginning, there was a few hiccups because we were used to doing all this stuff in the office. So for example, when we were putting together the magazine, the editor would walk over to the designer's desk and look over his shoulder and make all the changes that needed to happen. So when we went to remote, suddenly we had to develop these new processes so that
Yeah.
these type of things could get done efficiently. So there definitely was some awkwardness, but everyone, adjusted themselves accordingly,
Mhm.
and it worked out fine. I'm sure other people have other experiences, but for me, it worked well.
Did you lose any people because of COVID and this shift to remote work? So did anybody say it's I cannot adjust to this, so it's difficult for me to change the processes? Anything like this happen or not?
No, not in my company, but I will give the example of my mom, who is a lawyer, and she all of a sudden had to do all kinds of document signing online and Zoom and all these things that were a bit challenging for her. So she ended up kind of jumping to retirement maybe a little bit earlier than she would have. So I
Mhm.
know there's examples of that, but for my business, no, definitely there wasn't. And I probably would have had people leave if I told them they had to start coming in the office 5 days a week. Then my email would have gone like ding, ding, ding. I quit, I quit, I quit.
Okay, so this change was quite positive for your business. So that's really good to know. And so you have quite a lot of experience both in corporate world, then you've been running your own business and not one business. So do you have any like golden rules or recommendations for those who start their business for young companies who are on the like at the beginning of their journey?
Yeah, I'll save you a little bit of time, something that I learned later on and I wish I had learned earlier. When you're starting a new business, of course, you're going to have to be heavily involved in everything, because starting a new business is setting up a system. That's the way you need to look at a business, is you're creating a system. And then it's your job to make sure that the system runs properly. The problem I see, and what a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake of, is that they feel like they have to be involved in every single aspect of the business. They need to do the invoicing, they need to do the sales, they need to do
Mhm.
this and that. So, they take on too many roles within the system rather than seeing what their actual job is, which is to build the system, get it to run, do all the tinkering,
Mhm.
make sure it runs smoothly, hire new people when people quit, and then you can run this business, and then you can build another system, and that's another business that you can also manage and keep on track of. But if you get too bogged down in the day-to-day, running of things, it can be a big problem. It can be exhausting. And, you want the system to run if you're unavailable for the day, right?
Yes, that's true. So I love your advice, and I totally agree because what I observe in my experience, sometimes we are approached by owners of small businesses, as you say, they are managing everything by themselves. So they might have assistants, but still they are in every process. So they believe they are irreplaceable, and they want from a recruiting agency to find them like alter ego, the same person like
Yeah.
they are, with experience in all those areas, with the same motivation, like so. And they actually, we are trying to explain them that they cannot compare themselves, or the owner and owner's motivation cannot be compared to an employee's motivation. But that's usually it doesn't work. It doesn't work because it's impossible to find the second Devin, yes, or the
Yeah.
second someone else. Yes, so I believe that's really smart. That's a really smart advice. Thank you for this.
I'm sorry. One
And
other tip
yeah.
is to split your business into departments. Like I told you, we have 3 departments, and then put someone in charge of each of the departments. So all the issues roll up into that person. Anything they can't handle then comes to you. But you find someone that you trust, and then you give them that responsibility.
Yes, and you don't have so much stress, and you have a lot of time for, I don't know, for new ideas, yes, and for traveling.
Yeah.
And the same regarding the team, So what would be your advice for keeping your team involved?
Well, there's lots of different things you can do. The old style of management, was having these stuffy performance reviews and, telling the people all the things they're doing wrong. But, you have to understand the way that people work. People work a lot better with like positive encouragement than they do, always being told what they're doing wrong. So, my advice is to kind of appreciate your employees, make sure they know when they're doing a good job. And also, especially with the younger people, I always want to kind of push their boundaries a little bit. So, for example, I have this girl who's a marketing coordinator, and she's more behind the scenes, doing the computer stuff. And I said, no, I want to push your boundaries a little bit. I want to send you to some events in Toronto. I want to get you talking to people. I want to build your confidence. So I'm always trying to, get people to develop new skills and push them out of their comfort zone a bit.
Yes, that's also very good to know. I recently talked to one more small business owner. He has a marketing agency, and he always says that he hires people not based on their hard skills, but based on their soft skill. Because you can gain any hard skill if you want, and if you have such an opportunity. So, I do support this approach to managing people. Thank you for sharing this. I think it's very smart. And as I don't know, for the last 2 years, any conference I attend, I mean any tech conference I attend, people are speaking about artificial intelligence. So I want to ask you also about this. So people are speaking about the influence on artificial intelligence on the job market, that employees will be replaced by I don't know, robots or systems, that some businesses will disappear, that even lawyers will be replaced by artificial intelligence. What do you think in general about artificial in general? And do you and your company's employees use it somehow for their work, or I don't know, in their private life? So I would be curious about this.
Well, I think it's super cool, and I've been following it as much as I can. We're using it for some of the writing. I'm using it like sometimes I'll go to an event and I'll have to write an article about it. So I just, type some stuff into Chat GPT and then it spits it out. So it's totally phenomenal. My writers will say it's not up to scratch and, but for my purposes, it's fine. The AI chat boxes, they're amazing. I was reading this article in the paper the other day and it was saying that AI had discovered like 800,000 new materials, which would have taken humanity, thousands of years to discover. So it's totally fantastic and totally fabulous. But I do have a little bit of a concern that eventually it's going to put me out of business because one day AI is going to be smart and say, okay, I know exactly the best place to put all your advertising to get the most sales at the cheapest cost. And, all the marketing will just be automated. So I
Well,
think
I'm talking about this often. Often I talk about this about developers, and developers say so. Tech people, they know something. They they say that at least we have at least 20 years. So it's not.
yeah.
It won't be that smart during the next 20 years. But my personal attitude, I don't know. We also use a lot of artificial intelligence, but we treat them as assistants, so it helps, and hopefully it will just develop in the same direction. And I also love people who use it, who try it, not depending on the age. And when we hire people, we usually ask if they use what kind of technologies they use and what time or kind of a type of artificial intelligence they use. Recently, by the way, we had an interview with a young lady to our marketing team. And when I asked her a question, what kind of AI do you use? She started laughing. So I'm kind of 42 and she was like 20 and she's laughing that she's not using artificial intelligence because it's like a future. It's only the future. So that's great that you are using this, and I actually don't think it will replace us. It can be like an assistant because it still needs to
Well,
be.
and I think we've been talking about for a really long time how people are working too hard, so why don't we give some of the work to the AI and then,
Yeah.
we can have 4-day work weeks instead of 5-day work weeks, right?
And by the way, I've been always thinking about editors in your industry. Yes, for example, like for Travelweek, you told me some time ago that they have to post like 8 or 5 articles every day, blog posts or news. So they have to have like inspiration or motivation to draft it. Yes, because sometimes you're not always in. So at least me, I'm not in the best mood to draft something. But when you have ChatGTP or some other service, you can just give him some ideas, and it helps you. So it's quite suitable.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. It's so good at generating ideas. And if I have to name a new business, it just pops out all these ideas. So it's totally fabulous. But one thing I will say, is we have like editorial standards and the written content has to be, of very high quality because that's what we do. That's our business. And Chat GPT is not there yet.
Yes, that's true. That's true, and lucky we are.
Yeah.
And the last question, Devin, can you share an example of your best decision? I don't know, during the business decision. I mean, whether it's a hiring decision or any other decision. What was it? If you can recollect something, if it's only one thing.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I think the best decision that has put us in the best position going forward is that over COVID, we switched from printing the magazine to just doing it digitally. And that saved $900,000 worth of costs in regards to printing and distributing. And amazingly, the advertisers still want to advertise even though it's digital. So that has, been a huge, huge help to the business and put it on very solid financial footing. So I would say that's the best decision. It was kind of a forced decision, but we decided not to go back to the printing. We still, sorry, I must say, that's the weekly magazine. We still have a monthly magazine that we go to print with. So now we offer our clients print if they want it, and then all this digital product.
So that's great to know. Thank you. So everything is related to technologies, yes. So adjusting to the new requirements of the market. And by the way, I said that this is the last question, but I didn't ask you something I wanted to. You mentioned you mentioned that you hire developers, and in Canada, there is such a, I don't know, an issue that people prefer hiring locally, and those who hire outside of the country, they are like do not want to talk about it. What do you think about hiring overseas, and if you ever hired overseas, and what is your experience if you did?
Well, all of our core employees, we hire Canadian. They're based here in Toronto, some in Montreal. But I have some amazing hires internationally that have really, really supported my business. I'll give you an example. We used to hire a graphic designer, and it costs the business $50,000 a year to have this graphic designer, and he put together the magazine. We eventually parted ways, and as a replacement, I found this woman in Argentina who's actually a professor of graphic design. And now, instead of having someone on salary for $50,000, I pay this woman $200 American, and she spends the 5 hours and puts together the magazine. And then that's the end of it, and she pops back up when I have to do the magazine again. Mm-hmm. So I've had absolutely amazing cost savings by using people overseas, and some of them are
and you didn't lose any quality or anything like that, or any communication issues?
She's better.
Oh, perfect. Great. So I'm asking this question because, yes, I noticed that some people like considering this because of there is lack of staff inside the country. Salaries are quite high, yes, because Canada is an expensive country, and people are considering this possibility, but they kind of afraid of this. So I want our Canadian guests to speak about their experience, whether it's good or bad, just to let people know what options they have. So thank you again for sharing this, and thank you again for that you found the time. I know that you were quite busy recently because you had a large conference yesterday, which was a great success, and I'm happy that you are happy that everything went well. And thanks everyone who was with us today. I can see that we do not have questions, which is good. And once again, I'm Mariana Hreneshin from ABC Recruiting. This video will be also posted on YouTube channel, and you can listen our podcast on Spotify and Player FM. Thank you all once again, and see you in January.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin. Bye.